Hi, everybody. Michael GDA here. We have a lot to learn. These days, many people are starting to come to the knowledge of the truth, beginning to come to the knowledge of the truth in a lot of areas of their life. Healthcare, government, education, so many areas. But one place that we are dramatically blind is in our understanding of Yehovah's word. Honestly, we don't even know what words are Yehovah's. Catholic Church added the New Testament scriptures to the Hebrew scriptures. Do you know that it wasn't the Hebrew scriptures that added those? Or it wasn't the Hebrews that added those extra books? No, it came from the Catholic Church. And I want you, as the truth is starting to come to light in the world, to watch what you find out about the Catholic Church and what's been going on in the Catholic Church for hundreds and hundreds of years. We have learned lies, worthless and unprofitable things. Today, I'm going to try and expose some things that few people have ever even considered. The first has to do with the children of Israel. Oh my goodness. When I was a young lad, going to Sunday school every Sunday, we'd read our Bibles. And most of its time it said the sons of Israel. That's how they were translating B'nai Israel. But it doesn't say that. It's that if it were the sons of Israel, it would have said B'nim Israel. But it says B'nai Israel. Nowadays, those very words are being changed to the children of Israel. Oh my, such lies. Because what does that make you think about? It makes you think that women are considered Israel, doesn't it? At least sons of Israel. That was closer. But we didn't understand that Israel is a spiritual people. And then when we're talking about the sons of Israel, we're talking about generations upon generations of spiritually born men. Where do we become spiritually born? Well, that gets to our other topic that we're going to discuss today. Who is Israel's seed? The children of Israel. And food. Most people who say they are becoming Israel, that they're going to follow Yeshua, the golden calf of the modern day, do two things. First, they start eating clean. They learn about the dietary laws, Leviticus 11. And they learn about the feasts, Leviticus 23. And they think that if they're going to start keeping the Passover or the feast of Yehovah and eating clean, that's all they got to do. And now they're going to be Israel. Don't you know? But we're going to see today where where Judah. No, I can't even say that. Where Jacob's seed and those who joined themselves to them in Egypt actually became Israel. They did not get to leave Israel until they became Israel, or did not get to leave Egypt until they became Israel. Ezra, men. So probably the main topic for today is about this meat that we're eating, thinking that we're doing Yehovah's bidding by eating this meat. And we don't understand that there's more to this story. And Leviticus 17 is the more of the story. Let's get started and we'll see how this progresses. I think you're going to find this very interesting. Put on your thinking caps. Remember, oftentimes things that we learn in the scriptures aren't in one verse. It's not a sound point, soundbite. It's line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. Remember when we gave the 10 Commandments, Yehovah told his sons, Israel, B'nai Israel, not to go near a woman for 3 days. Why? Because they were going up to the mountain to have Yehovah speak to them the 10 Commandments. Again, line upon line, precept upon precept. Let's start. This is Leviticus 17 that we're going through today. Oh, 17 is great. We're going to go through 18, sexual sins. 18 is going to be sexual sins. 19 is going to be interesting. 20 is going to be, we have such interesting things coming up here in these weeks. Today, I hope you might like this. Here we go. It says, Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, who? Speak to Aaron and his son. You know what? I think that even said Aaron and his seed. Let me just check that if I did or not. I'm just curious. No, it says sons. Apparently it says sons, and to all Israel's seed. To all Israel's seed. B'nai Israel. There it is right there. So it looks like we're going to be talking about Israel's seed today, right? And say to them, this is the thing which Yehovah has commanded, saying. Now, I've got a little bit of an overview that I put together here. This chapter 17 is going to talk about 5 statutes regarding the killing of animals and blood. Here's what I put as a general description of these. 17, 1 through 7 is instructions on how the domestic meats from the herds and the flocks, sheep and goats, are to be treated and not treated. First, they're going to show it how they're not treated, and then they're going to show you how you should treat them. Then we're going to talk all about domestic slaughters, Olah, and the burnt offering. Olah, the old burnt offering, in or near the camp of the herd and flocks that are to be brought to Yehovah. Then he's going to talk about blood, not eating blood. Then we're going to talk about treatment of clean animals, clean wild animals and birds. And finally, we're going to talk about meat that dies of itself or is torn by beasts. Here's 2. Speak to Aaron and his sons. So I kind of went through this. I don't want to talk about that too much. So let's start with 3 then. It says, whatever man of Israel's Benim, Israel's bet. Here's the word right here. Israel, Bayit. Israel's Bayit. Israel's house. But we're talking to the children of Israel, aren't we? B'nai Israel. Israel's seed. Now they're calling them Bayit. Bayit. Israel. There it is. Bayit. Israel. He says, whoever kills an ox or a lamb or a goat in the camp, or whoever kills it outside the camp. So, first of all, we're talking about kills. What is kills? I would have thought that if we were going to talk about kills, I would expect that word to be slaughter. This wasn't slaughter. This was kills. And I think maybe they use kills because we're going to be talking about the Olah offering, and the Olahs are not eaten. Remember, all the other things, the Shalamim, are going to be eaten by Israel's people. Kills. Here's the word that they use. Oh, and whatever man. Look at this. Let me read this to you. It says, this is the house of Israel. Israel's seed. The Ezra Haaretz. The born in the land man. We will see that the stranger dwells with the Ezra. He has no land, and thus has no domestic animals of his own. This is why the Ezra are not included in the house of Israel as it pertains to what we're talking about in this first, what I call statute. 1 through, what did we say? 1 through 7. It says each statute, except the last one, begins with the words ish. See how they translated this? This was verse 4. Whatever man. It says ish. I put my New King James Version usually translates this as any man or whatever man. But the point here is that we're talking about men. There are no lady ish. Let's now look at the enlightening progression of these 5 statutes. This is going to be an overview, but I want you to see what it says here. The first statute talks about the house of Israel. The second statute is going to talk about the house of Israel and the ger, the stranger who dwells with us. The third statute is going to be about the house of Israel and, again, the stranger who dwells with us, but they're also going to call us Israel's seed. Israel's house is Israel's seed, and nor any stranger. Now, the next section is going to be talking about the wild animals. We're going to talk about Israel's seed and the ger. And finally, look what it says. And every person, whether he is native of our own country, Ezra Haaretz, or the ger. You have to look carefully to see who Israel's seed is. Israel's seed, the house of Israel. And now the Ezra Haaretz are one in the same. You're not Israel if you're not an Ezra Haaretz. And wait until you see how we become an Ezra Haaretz. We'll talk about it towards the end. Here's a little bit more that I wrote. What we are seeing here, or what are we seeing here? There are only 2 kinds of men in Yehovah's kingdom, the Ezra and the ger. The Ezra and the Ger. Those, the us, he always refers to you, and the stranger who dwells with you. The Ger who dwells with you. That's the Ger. Two kinds of men. Look at the progression. What does this tell us? What this tells me is the house of Israel and Israel's seed, aka the children of Israel, and the native of our own country, the Ezra Haaretz, are synonymous phrases. And again, they are all men. We're talking about men killing animals. See, you've got to understand the opposite of this. Women don't kill anything. They don't kill animals. They don't kill chickens. They can butcher them, but they do not kill them. Men kill animals. Here's the word that we're using for that. Very interesting. It's shakat. We're going to see that this word is going to be turned from a verb into a noun by the Jews. They have a shakat that kills all their meat, their kosher meat. Here it is, according to the laws of the Torah, to be eaten. According to the laws of the Torah, to be eaten, a kosher species must be slaughtered by a shakat. Is that the law of the Torah? It just said any man. Is any man a shakat? No, they turned a verb into a noun. For a prophet, of course. And I think to throw us off. You know what? No one talks about this chapter. Why? I'll tell you why. Because this is the things that if you do it wrong, you get kicked out of Israel. And the deep state doesn't want anybody in Israel. So these are the things that get us kicked out of Israel. Let me finish what I was saying. Since the Jewish law prohibits causing any pain to animals. Now, I think that's good. The slaughtering has to be affected in such a way that unconsciousness is instantaneous and death occurs almost instantaneously. Again, this is not my writing. This is not Torah. But I think there's good things in a slaughter. We want to slaughter our animals humanely. We're going to talk about Michael, whatever you're talking about. The Muslims and how they slaughter their meat. You know, they do, I think, a very humane job of it. But we're going to see if you don't follow the Torah, you're going to be in trouble. This says, man of Israel's house. You know what? You're off the hook if you're not Israel. You can't get kicked out of Israel if you're not Israel. Bummer. I'm Israel. And when I read this chapter and saw over and over that the man shall be cut off from among his people, in pink, shall be cut off from among his people, will cut him off from among his people. Whoever eats it shall be cut off. But if he does not wash them or bathe his body, then he shall bear his guilt. You know, I'm not going to get cut off from Israel. I worked too hard to become Israel. So here's a man killing an ox. We're talking about cattle or lamb or goat in the camp or outside the camp. Verse 4 now says, and does not bring it to the door of the tent of meeting to offer an offering, to bring his, here it is, to bring his korban, bring his offering. That's actually not a bad translation. They said offer, it's bring, okay. Offer an offering, bring his korban is what we're talking about, with the fat and the blood before the tabernacle of Yehovah. It's the guilt of the bloodshed, the guilt of bloodshed shall be imputed to that man. He has shed blood, and that man shall be cut off from among his people. So what happened? He was killing his cattle or his goat or his sheep in the camp. That's where he lives. We're not talking about Israel, just talking in our camp, in our gates. You could say it like that, within our gates or outside our gates. And did not bring it to Yehovah. So that was the problem. Here's what it said. They translated this as guilt of bloodshed. Guilt of isn't there. It just says blood. Here's what it says. And I added this portion about with the fat and the blood because that's what we're doing. We're bringing the fat and the blood to Yehovah. The blood's going to be poured on the altar, and the fat's going to be burned on the altar. It says, unto Yehovah's face, before Yehovah, Yehovah's tabernacle. Guilt of blood. Blood! That's all it says. Blood shall be impugned. Sorry, my throat is so dry. Blood shall be impugned on him. Blood he has shed. The man shall be cut off from among his people. He didn't bring it to the house. He just was killing it on his own land. Well, that sends up huge signals for me because I don't want to get kicked out of Yehovah's land. But we don't have a tabernacle right now, do we? So I'm in a little bit of a quandary, wondering what I'm going to do. I've got the answer. We just have to learn. Again, line upon line, precept upon precept. Bear with me. You're going to see things today. This is what we're supposed to do with these animals. These are the things that we've been learning about, the korban that we bring, the offerings that we bring. They're called korban. It's about drawing near to Yehovah that we learned in Leviticus 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1 was olas. 2 was about the minkas. 3 was about the shalomim, the peace offering, the thanksgiving offering. 4 was about the kata'ah, the sin offerings. And Hashem was essentially, that's kind of a sin offering, but they called it a shame offering. They can only be from 3 different kinds of animals: ox, lambs, goats. And that's what we're talking about here: ox, lambs, goats. I think we're talking about our domestic animals to Yehovah, to slaughter them as a reminder that he brings his Ezra men, the increase of the herds and the flock. Yes. This is why we bring them to Yehovah, because he gave them to us. He multiplies our flocks, our herds and our flocks. And this is our way of thanking him for the good land that he has given us. Well, there's a few places that talk about guilt of bloodshed, but it's not guilt. Again, Psalms 51, we talk about that. I'm not going to go into that right now. Now it says, that was the things that we were doing wrong. We were killing them outside the gates or in the gates, but we were supposed to bring them to Yehovah and slaughter them before the face of Yehovah, so the fat could be burned. And here it is. To that end, Now it's saying Israel's seed. Israel's seed. Weren't we just talking about the house of Israel? See, now they're talking about Israel's seed. They're one and the same, you guys. To that end, Israel's seed may bring their slaughters. Look at this. This is abysmal. Here they're saying sacrifices, offers, they offer, offerings. You know what the word is on every one of these cases? It's a form of zavik. Here it is. Zavik. 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 All the same words. Finally, shalamim is what we're talking about here. So let me read it to you on the right. Follow me on the left, and you can see what they did. Again, they do not want you to kill your meat properly before Yehovah. If they can get you to do it wrong, you get kicked out of Israel before you even leave Israel. My throat's going out. I'm very passionate about this, and I know I raised my voice. If I ever sound angry, I'm not angry. I'm passionate. I love you. I want to see you do it right. Here's what it says. Follow me on the left while I read it on the right. To that end, that Israel's seed may come with their slaughters, which they slaughtered in the open field, and come to Yehovah, to the door of the tent of meetings, to the priest, that he, the man, shall slaughter his slaughtered shalamim to Yehovah. Remember, the priest is going to pour the blood on the altar, and the altar has a drain that's eventually going to go into the ground, and burn the fat from the shalamim on the altar. Of course, the priest is going to get his portion, the breast, and it seemed like there was a right leg that was going to go to the priest as well for his help with this slaughter. But again, they use sacrifice, offerings, and it's all of these are slaughters which they slaughtered to Yehovah. Does that bother anybody? That bothers the heck out of me, because it throws all these bad ideas into our head that are not there. Remember, a slaughter is something that we're going to eat. We kill it, we slaughter it, and we eat it. We shakat the olah. We slaughter the shalamim because we eat the shalamim. We don't eat the olah. Now, I think this is interesting, and perhaps I'm hesitant to bring it up, but I think I should, because, again, these are things that get us kicked out of Israel. If a ger joins himself to Israel and is going to eat meat that is polluted by idols, we'll talk about that very shortly, it's going to get him kicked out of Israel before he gets into Israel. He's not even Israel yet. He's just learning. And this is in Acts 15:20. This is James speaking. You know what? I think I'm going to go there just real quick. We can come back to this. Here it is. Now to Elohim, from eternity, all are his works. Known to Elohim, from eternity are all his works. Therefore I judge that we should not trouble those from among the Gentiles. These are men, ger, who are joining themselves to Yehovah and his people. The certain sects of the Pharisees were saying that they needed to be baptized and circumcised. And Peter or James is saying, no, they don't. But here's what they need to do. says, but that we write to them to abstain from things polluted by idols, from sexual immorality. We're going to talk about that next week. All those get you kicked out of Israel as well, from things strangled and blood. We're going to talk about blood today. The reason they're doing things that are strangled is why? Because the blood stays in the animal. We don't want to eat the blood. For Moses has had throughout many generations those who preach him in every city, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath. Yes, yes, yes. Let's go back. Things polluted by idols. Sexual immorality, things strangled in blood. Verse 6, still on the first statute. And the priest shall sprinkle the blood on the altar of Yehovah at the door of the tabernacle of meeting and burn the fat for a sweet aroma to Yehovah. Isn't this exactly what I was just saying? That's what they're going to do. They shall no more, look what they say, offer sacrifices. They shall not slaughter their slaughters to demons. Demons is kind of an interesting word. It is this word here, sayir. Looks like goats. But I think that the key phrase for understanding this portion is this spot right here, after whom, let me get the whole thing, after whom they have played the harlot. How do we play the harlot? Here, this is our Complete Jewish Bible, wrote it this way. No longer will they offer, they put sacrifices, slaughters, which they slaughtered. They don't even have that. Poor translation, but they use goat demons. I think it makes sense to me. Before whom they prostitute themselves, played the harlots. You know, if you look at Ezekiel 16, it talks about us playing the harlot. I don't think I put that in there. I don't want to go there. I make this too long if I do. I put, who do men play the harlot with? Governments of men. Moloch. All these gods that they're sacrificing to. The same men who provide meats for our table. You know, people don't know where their meat comes from. Some people are so vastly ignorant that they don't know where their hamburger comes from. A cow. I guess it could be a goat or a sheep also, because it's just ground meat. But they don't know where steaks come from. They're oblivious. But it's more critical than that, because of the way the meat is slaughtered. To whom they played the harlot. Is the meat being slaughtered the way Yehovah tells us to do it right here? Or is the meat being slaughtered according to the Elohim statutes and judgments and ordinances of land? The Elohim, the lawmakers and judges of land. They have their own statutes and judgments and ordinances by which their meat has to be slaughtered. That's the meat that shows up in your grocery stores. Oh, but Michael, it's clean meat. Oh, who killed it? Does Yehovah in these statutes say anything about somebody else killing our meats that we're going to eat with our family? The ger who dwells with us, our servants? No. There's no butchers. Israel didn't have any butchers. We killed our own meat. We should cut our own meat for our tables. I put the same men who provide meat for our tables. Where does Yehovah ever tell us to buy meat from anyone? Where does Yehovah say that someone else can kill the meat that our family eats? I was looking for this goat demons. Here's what I came up with. Does this look familiar? I think that's what we're talking about. This is the deep states, Elohim, the devil, demons. They're the ones who run the slaughterhouses. Does the meat go into or does the blood go into the ground? Or does it go into some other dish down the line? Do they resell that blood? I'll bet you they do. Any place where they're going to have constant slaughters, a slaughterhouse, the meat is not going to go into the ground. The ground can't take up all that blood at once. It just can't do it. So they're going to have to put it into some kind of container. And my guess is they're going to sell that container to somewhere else. It's not going to where it's supposed to. And the animals that are being killed, how are they being killed? There are chickens, meat chickens. They live for 9 weeks. They go from little chick to this great big, almost 10-pound bird in 9 weeks. Those birds that are in the grocery stores never see light sometimes? They're in the dark their whole life. It's an abomination. Do you think their blood is going to go into the ground? Same with pigs. Pigs. That's like clean food? No. But all kinds of animals, they're not grown properly. They're not slaughtered properly. Not according to what Yehovah says. Here, I got more. Here's that. It says the last time we talked about the shaggy goats, okay, this is what we were talking about, these things here. Seir was actually in the last chapter when we talked about the goats. One is going to be two kids of goats. One is a sin offering, one is a burnt offering. But remember, these are we're not playing the harlot with these guys. Those who sow to the flesh shall reap corruption. They get kicked out of Israel. You're going to sow to the flesh, you're going to get kicked out of Israel. Here's the ger we were talking about in Exodus 15. They haven't joined them. They're ger in Israel, but they're not Israel yet. They haven't partaken in the Passover. So they're still ger. After they get circumcised and then take part in the Passover, then they become Ezra Haaretz, Israel's seed, spiritually born men. We'll talk about that more. Let me continue. I said, what about halal meats? What is halal meat? Here's a link that I posted, or I found, about halal meats. They got some interesting things. What's permissible to eat? Here, look at this. They got horse and what they're permissible to eat. If you talk about seafood, they've got shellfish and other things that supposedly are permissible to eat. Now, here is the slaughter. They have to do certain rites. So they have to say a prayer. What is the prayer they say? I think I've got it here. Oops. There it is. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allah is the greatest. This is what the prayer that they're praying over these meats. See this word Kabbalah? That is the black square that's in I forget what city it's in. Here, I'll find it. Mecca. There it is right there. They have to orient their animal that they're going to slaughter towards that to be official. But now, look at what they do as far as slaughtering animals. They're good about this. Animals should not witness the slaughter of another animal. That's great. I don't think they should witness the slaughter of another animal. Do it in private. Animals must be slaughtered with a sharp knife. Good. They said get the esophagus, the trachea, and the two jugular veins. I'm learning as I go through this. I've slaughtered a goat, probably a dozen times through the years, maybe even more than that by now, actually, but a bunch. And I still feel like I've got more to learn. And this is really helping me to understand this. But the animal is going to be processed in the factory. Is that what Yehovah says? No, no, no. Now you'd go to kosher meats. Slaughter process. The slaughter process, also known as shakita, which is interesting. This word and the shakat all come from that same killing aspect that we're talking about. It's not talking about zavik, is it? It's shakit, shakita. That's the process of killing the animal. Cornerstone of kosher meats, preparation. According to Jewish law, not Torah, the animal must be killed in a specific manner by a skilled Jewish slaughterer known as the shakat. So here we took the verb shakat or shakat and turned it into a noun, shakat, which doesn't even exist in the Torah. It's Jewish law. Draining the blood. They not only drain the blood, they do a good job at that, but now they want to soak it in salt. Where does Yehovah tell us that we need to do that? He says drain the blood, and you can eat it. Eat the animal. Did anybody soak it in blood? Soak it in salt? No. But this is what they do. It's about profit. It's about profit. We're the ones that are supposed to kill our own meat. Nowhere does Yehovah tell us that somebody else is going to kill our meat. Are things polluted by idols if they're done in accordance with the statutes and judgments and ordinance of the Elohim of the land? I use Elohim, lawmakers and judges. That's what they translate as gods, as the Elohim of the land. They're the ones who are writing the statutes and judgments and ordinances. So we got to dig deeper. Verse 7. Oh, that's what we just did. They shall no more slaughter their slaughters to demons, after whom they played the harlots. This should be a statute forever for them throughout their generations. How long? A statute forever. Olam. Forever. Now, here's statute number 2. Also, you shall say to them, whatever man, again, man, here it is right here, man, and any man, and man of Israel's house, or the stranger. They put strangers, it's not strangers, it's stranger, who dwells among them, who raises up, offers, raises up an olah, where am I? Raises up an olah or a slaughter. A slaughter. That's the word, a zafik. A slaughter. And does not bring it to the door of the tent of meeting to, what's the word that they're using here? They said to come, to make it to Yehovah. To come, to make it to Yehovah. To come, to come, to make, I don't know that word. Make it to Yehovah. I can go down that way. Asha, to make. To come, to make it to Yehovah. What does it say? That man, whatever man, shall be cut off from among his people. Now, this is interesting because we're talking about an olah and a shalomim. The very same thing in Leviticus 20, at the end of the chapter, that Yehovah said that we can make an altar of earth or stone and bring our olah and our shalomim to him. And wherever we do this, he will come to us and dwell with us. But here, because we're close to the tent of meetings, we need to bring it to the tent of meetings, to where Yehovah has put his name. And if we don't, look what it says. That man shall be cut off from among his people. Again, this is troubling. I don't want to be cut off from Yehovah's people. So what if the place that Yehovah places his name is not near us or doesn't exist at all? That's where we're at right now. We don't have a place on the earth right now where Yehovah is dwelling, do we? I think we will in the future, but not right now. Well, we're going to talk about that soon. I put an altar to Yehovah. And again, I'm sure I talked about the ordinance or the instructions that Yehovah gave us on Mount Sinai about building an altar to Yehovah. Many people have built altars to Yehovah before there was a tabernacle. When there was a tabernacle, when this was written, if we were close enough, we would bring it to Yehovah. But Yehovah has instructions for when we're too far to bring it to Yehovah. Now, 17:10, I'm sorry. Again, whatever man. This is man. There it is again. Man. Of the house of Israel. Here it is. Man of Israel's house. And the ger who dwells with them. And the ger who dwells with them. Who eats any blood? I will set my face against that person who eats blood, and I will cut him off from among his people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you, upon the altar to make. We have to go back to this. I've given it to you upon the altar. Here it is. Upon the altar to cover, to kafar, your souls, for it is the blood that covers the soul. Who's he talking to? He's talking to men, not talking to ladies. Remember, ladies are to have a covering. If their man is covered, they're covered. If they're covered by a man. There's a reason why 7 women will want to join themselves to one man in the last days. Because he's Israel. And they want what he has. Blood. let me just go through my 2 notes on these. Any man among the house of Israel, or the ger. So here's we're talking about the house of Israel and the ger. Sometimes we talk about the children of Israel, or Bnei Israel and the ger. And sometimes we talk about the Ezra Haaretz and the ger. They're all the same people. They're just calling them different names. This is how we find out how man becomes Israel. Oh, wait till I point that out to you. We're going to talk about that soon. But this is not a new commandment about eating blood. We're not supposed to eat blood. But flesh of the life thereof, which is in the blood, therefore ye shall not eat. That was Genesis 9. Leviticus 3. It shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout your dwellings, that ye shall eat neither fat nor blood. Remember what kind of fat we're talking about. This prohibition is against eating or drinking blood, but it's not new to Israel's seed. What is new, however, is the explanation in 11 and 12. For the life of the flesh is in the blood. I have given it to you upon the altar to make a covering for your souls. This is what it's doing. For it is the blood that maketh a covering for your soul. Therefore I said unto Israel's seed, no soul of you shall eat the blood, neither shall any ger who sojourneth with among you eat blood. Yeah, powerful. Okay, again, verse 17, whatever man. Here we're talking about the wild animals. I'll read it on the right, you watch it on the left. Any man, any man. I think Yehovah is making a point. He's making a point that we're talking about men killing animals, not ladies. When Yehovah repeats himself, you always have to ask yourself, why is he repeating himself? I think this is why. Look what it says now, though. Any man among Israel's seed, and the ger, who dwells with them, who hunts and catches a living thing or bird, which may be eaten, he shall pour out the blood and cover it with earth. That's all we're going to do. We're going to slaughter it. We're going to pour the blood into the ground, and we're good to go. The meat is ours. That may be eaten. We're talking about Leviticus 11, anything which may be eaten. This reaffirms Yehovah's instructions in Leviticus 11. See, we only read 11. We don't read 17. We don't want to know about 17 because that's going to inhibit what kind of meat we're going to eat. I put wild game does not have to be brought to the tent of Moed. The blood is poured into the ground and covered. That's it. And since it is not used as a shalamim, the restrictions do not apply. Whenever we're going to take it to the blood to the altar, it means that we have to, eat the blood within 2 or 3 days, depending on how it was used. If it was for a vow offering, shalamim, which is a vow offering, we had 1 day. If it was for different things, if it's just a plain shalamim, we had 2 and maybe 3 days. I think on the 3rd day it needed to be burned, whatever wasn't eaten. But not so with the wild game. Right now we have no place where Yehovah dwells and no altar. The article I wrote. This is the last in a series of articles. Here's the articles. It is unclean food, meat sacrificed to idols. This is how it starts. And I think at the end it just goes to the next chapter. Yeah, go to part 2. But this is the last one that I wrote here. Whoops, that's not it. That's not it either. Well, here, we'll go to it this way. Okay. Meat sacrificed to idols. Oh, that's altar. Is there another one? Do I have 9 on these? Oh, I do. Here it is. Killing of wild game in Torah. Now, this is fascinating because, again, we have no temple. What do? If we eat any kind of meat and we don't bring it to the temple, are we going to be destroyed, cut off from Israel? No, Yehovah has an instruction for that. And here it is in I wrote it here. This is in Deuteronomy. It says, when Yehovah, thy Elohim, excuse me, when Yehovah, thy Elohim, enlarges thy border, as he has promised thee, then thou say, let me eat meat, because thou longs to eat meat. You may eat as much meat as your heart desires. If the place where Yehovah, thy Elohim, chooses to put his name is too far from thee, or non-existent, then thou mayst slaughter from thy herd and thy flocks, which Yehovah has given thee, just as I have commanded thee, and thou shalt eat within thy gates as much as thy heart desires. Don't have to bring it to the temple. He goes on, just as the gazelle and the deer are eaten, so thou may eat them. The unclean and the clean also may eat them. So why does he say that? Because with the slaughtered shalamim, only if your wife is in her menses, she can't eat it. If she touches anybody else in the house, they can't eat it. But here it says, the clean and the unclean can eat it. Only be sure that thou does not eat the blood, for the blood is the life. Thou shalt not eat the life with the meat. Thou shalt not eat it. Thou shalt pour it on the earth like water. All we got to do is make sure the blood gets drained from the animal. Slit its throat, hang it up, let it drain out. So that's all you got to do. Easy peasy. I encourage you to read these articles. They're really quite interesting. Well, here's the last one now. Maybe we have one more. What do I have here? Oh, the life. For the nefesh. Nefesh is in the flesh. Of all flesh is in the blood. Is in its blood. That's what it says. 15. Now, look at this. Up until now, it's been men. They translated whoever, all men, whatever man. Now it says every person. And it doesn't say men. It actually says all persons. Here it is. And all nefesh that eat that which dies of itself or that which is torn by wild beasts. Listen to what it says now. Remember, it's been saying that the Israel seed or the house of Israel, but now it's going to say the Ezra. They translated this word right here, Ezra, as native of your own country. How do they do that? Is there something that they don't want you to see? They don't want you to know what an Ezra is. There's only a few places in the scriptures that talk about the Ezra and liken them onto Israel's seed. But again, there's only two people, Israel's seed and the Ger who dwell with them. Now it's the Ezra and the Ger who dwell with them. Before it was the house of Israel and those who dwell with them, the Ger who dwells with them. as Ra, or as a ger. He shall wash his clothes, bathe himself in water. This is when he eats something which dies of itself or is torn by beasts. Honestly, you got to be pretty hungry, I think, to eat stuff that has died of itself or is torn by beasts. I think for me, I would want to just leave alone, but perhaps I'm just not hungry enough. So maybe there's a place for this. He shall wash his clothes, bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. Then he shall be clean. This is after he's eaten it. For the first time, it does not say, and man. Here it says, and every nephesh, and all nephesh. But then describes them as either an Ezra or a ger. Oh, isn't that interesting? Do you see the significance of this, you guys? I hope you do. This is last week. We talked about this last week when we were talking about the Day of Coverings. This shall be a statute forever to you. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you shall afflict your souls and do no work at all. The Ezra or the ger who dwells with you, the same two people. The Ezra or the ger. The Ezra or the ger. Israel's seed or the ger, the house of Israel or the ger. Do you start to see the pattern? Let me turn here to a topic note. This is under EZ, Ezra. Ezra. And the ger verses. Nope, that's not it. Next one down. Ezra here. First time Ezra comes to light. The first time we see it in the scriptures. Here it is. This is Leviticus 12. It's the Passover scripture. For 7 days, no leavened bread shall be found in your houses. Since whoever eats what is leavened, that same person shall be cut off from among Israel's seed. Actually, this says the congregation of Israel or the stranger, whether he is a congregation of Israel, whether he is a stranger or, look at this, the Ezra Haaretz, the one born in the land. Ezra of the land. Ezra of the land. Here it is, right after they eat the Passover. And when a stranger, this is the ger, dwells with you and wants to keep the Passover to Yehovah, let all his house be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall become as the land's Ezra. Ezra Haaretz. The land's Ezra. Remember, it was promised to us, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yahweh promised them all. The land and the seed. This is the seed of the land. Oh my goodness, we've got to understand this. Folks, you are not Israel by believing in some golden calf. You become Israel by leaving the Elohim of your birth, circumcising yourself. I'm talking to men and all the males of your family, and drawing near and keeping the Passover. And what does it say? I'll read it. And when the stranger dwells with you and wants to keep the Passover, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall become as the land's Ezra. For no uncircumcised person shall eat it. One law shall be for the Ezra, for an Ezra, and for a stranger, a ger, who dwells with you. Then we have the one in 16 that we did last week. Then we have the one in 17 that we did today. And in a few more weeks, we're going to have the one in Leviticus 23. And you'll see that when we get there. Like I say, it's not there in a lot of places, but you've got to dig deeper if you want to understand Yehovah's words. The very first feast is what? It's when we become Israel. We got two chances. The first month, 15th day, or the second month, 15th day. Then we have Shavuot, and we have everything else that's going to be coming up. Doesn't matter if you keep them. You're not Israel. Only Israel keeps those. You got to become Israel at Passover. And you got to renew your covenant with Yehovah every year. And if you don't, you get kicked out of Israel. And I am not going to get kicked out of Israel. I got two chances to do it. I'm going to take the first one. Never had to go to the second. Not yet. There may come a time that I have to, but I'm going to do it. Because I'm going to remain Israel. Well, last verse, it says, then he shall be clean. But if he does not wash them or bathe his body, remember he ate something that was dead or died of itself or was killed. If he doesn't wash and bathe, then he shall bear his guilt. Well, take a shower and bathe. Don't bear your guilt. All right. Well, next week, sexual sins. Ooh, you're going to find that very, very interesting. It's interesting what it says. It's also interesting what it doesn't say. Ooh, my goodness. There's some things that you don't get. We don't get. We have doctrines and traditions of men in our brains, false images in our heads that prevent us from seeing what Yehovah actually has to say. I'm praying that I can help knock down some of those false images with each one of my classes. You guys, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you again next time. Bye now.